Basically, what I wanted to cover today was one more a general covering of some of the new curriculum updates that we had, both in terms of what they were and why they were, and then just being able to ask each other a few questions, just initial ones. The rest of the sessions that we'll be hosting for the roundtables will also be primarily geared around discussions and allowing people to talk to each other. But those are all questions that are going to be a lot more specific. So next month is more about fundraising strategies. So all of the conversation and the discussions are going to be more around that as a topics, whereas all of the ones that I had today for potential questions were more broad and general. Some of it is covered in some of those end of year reports that I had sent out to all of you. So you have general numbers for everything, but this will just give you a chance to potentially ask a few questions additionally. But I'm just going to go ahead and get started with the new updates themselves, and just go through those. So firstly, what I wanted to talk about were the admin folders. A few changes had been made to the admin folders this year. I know you all got the what's new documents from the year that was able to launch everything and lay everything out in a little more clear fashion, but I wanted to kind of highlight a few of them specifically. Primarily the program calendars, the reference files, and then the commitment contracts. Those are ones that were a little bit newer. But in addition to just what they were, kind of wanted to go through why they were a little more important and what they're aiming to be doing. The program calendars themselves. So there's the two program calendars in the curriculum now. There's one for the junior year and one for the senior year. It's meant to just be an easier approach to organizing all the work that is needed to be done by a coordinator, but not just organizing it, it's also helping with the pacing. We just want to make sure that there's different ways for us to make sure that coordinators are able to anticipate what's coming up, what is happening, not just this session and the following session, but 3 sessions from now, what do I need to do? What am I able to plan for? What can I get started on now? And so I created these documents that do also have the dates on the side. Most of the programs, most of the affiliates that we have do run on a schedule that's like the second Tuesday of the month kind of thing. So if you want in the Excel spreadsheet, you can put that directly in and it just automatically updates those dates for you. Otherwise, you can put the dates in yourselves. It doesn't really make much of a difference. But the point of the calendars themselves were to help not just giving you, instructions or details on those types of things, but it's more about what does the overall program look like and how does that pacing and structure look to be able to continue with it. Because I know that was something that a few coordinators have talked about in the past, just like making sure that we can see and foresee different topics of discussion and sessions. So we're trying to find ways that make it a little bit easier for you to just stay on top and be more focused on the execution of the different things rather than trying to make sure that you're keeping everything straight, because that's really not the point of a coordinator's role to be spending all of your time doing that. And the reference files, obviously they're just files that have a lot of different references within them. They're pretty helpful for the coordinators and the mentors themselves. But the other point that I did want to point out is that it's also something that you can use for your youth. And some conversations obviously are going to come up in sessions where maybe it would be really nice for you to be able to continue on this discussion path, but you have other things to do, other things to cover. Using these reference files, you can build them, you can add to them, you can ask for us to add additional items to them. But it is also meant to be the fact that you can refer your students back to, hey, this is a really good topic. I love discussing this. We do have to move on, but I don't want to, discount what you're talking about. The point of it, though, is also to have this more personalized and approach to the connection that you have with your students, not just with these individual files that you can send them, but more the fact that there is this reciprocity in terms of what you're giving to the students, but also if they bring specifics up, if they want more information, if you want to personalize it a little more and talk about, a specific topic in an area or a discussion that you would like to have, this is just meant to be a background layer of information that you can use to kind of make your program a little bit more special in that way. And then the youth parent commitment contract, that's also something that we wanted to do. It's something that has kind of been done, just more in terms of what is covered on it. Obviously, it is a contract for the students and the parents to sign. But the point of that was also to more articulate the expectations of the program, both from the perspective of the people, us, the coordinators, the sponsor organizations, and to the students, and then also from the organizations to the students of who the students are. And I know, Janet, you had your hand up. Was that for the
Yes.
reference or go ahead?
Yes. Well, and actually, the contract, thank you, because I created one before I realized you guys were having one because I found some little issues where we needed to make sure it was clear that we were are clear expectations of the
Exactly.
students. So thank you. You guys were on the same page. Reference files. I in the junior curriculum for module two, it references the reference file for the CSR, only I could not find anything when I went looking in those. So I was curious if you might have a chance, even during our session, if you can look
Hmm.
and see if that's actually in there. It says there's some other resources to talk about corporate social responsibility, but I wasn't able to find those. So maybe I'm looking in the wrong place.
Yeah.
But that was on one of my little asks. So thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Which one specifically for the CSR? Yes, I will go and double check to see if it's in there. If it's not, I can always add them. But that's also a good point in a broader sense that if there is ever anything that you all want more information on, feel free, like, do not hesitate to reach out and say, here's something that I want, or I was looking for more information on, or something said that we could reference more, and I'd be happy to include that. We have so many files and so much information that we're trying to not overwhelm you all with it, but we do likely have a lot of information. So Janet, I'll be happy to go through, make sure that it is in there, and if it's not, I'll send it directly and then add it in there. Um, yeah, so that's kind of what the reference file is meant to be used for, and then same thing with the contract. Feel free to personalize those as well. Obviously, there's certain things that are in the contract that are meant to be, pretty clear and ubiquitously usable, that all of us can use and all of us can articulate and all of us can say. But if there are specific things that you think, this is something I would like to explicitly state in our contract, there's no problem if you want to edit it and put it in there. It's mostly meant to make sure that all the expectations are clear. We've just seen it also in the past where there's some small issues. It's just a lot easier to coach and change behavior in the future if it's more of a, hey, we talked about this, we know that you signed this. It's just a reminder rather than, hey, I need you to come to sessions, and if you're not coming to sessions, I need you to reach out to me if you miss and we have a discussion. It puts a little more of that responsibility in the hands of the student, but it's also more explicit, so it's a little bit fairer to everyone that here's exactly what we're asking for. We are asking for no more than this, but this is what it is clear for. But again, from a broader sense, all of these ones are meant to just make it easier for you to process the program itself and then make it easier so that you can spend time in the execution of the program rather than in the small details of, like, am I making sure that everything is organized, and am I making sure that the pacing is correct, and am I making sure that the students are, following up with certain things. That's not where your attention should be for the program. Obviously, if you need to, feel free, but we want your attention to be as much as possible on, like, what are the students doing? What are you able to get out of them? More of the actual impactful elements of it. So that's kind of what we are changing with the admin folders themselves. For the module additions, that's the second part of the updates. What they were, these are all the different junior and senior updates that you were able to see. The specific ones I want to point out for here are these ones though. So module 3, 4, and 7 had updates in the junior year, and then there's a few specific topics in the senior year that also got updates. These were all general updates, but a few of them are more in terms of the approach, some more than what the words are and what is the specifics of it. And so I'll talk about that right now. So for the junior year, we changed it to have more trust-based philanthropy. We had the actual terminology of a trust-based philanthropy included in the junior curriculum this year, which is not something we had in the past. We pretty much have always had the processes that are included in trust-based philanthropy in our curriculum and our curricula in general. That's always been the approach, is to create this connection between the givers of the students that are in the program and then the community, building this relationship, understanding the subversive nature of giving youth money like this. But we did want to include more of the actual terminology and also some of the more explicit discussions, things like the RFP. That is something that we think it would be beneficial if you had these types of discussions of not just what are the questions that we're including in the RFP, but, like, why is it important that we ask these questions? Why is it important that we take the more of the onus and the responsibility on us to, do research and to find these things? And it's more of putting names to practices and then understanding why those are becoming more prevalent across the sector. That's something that we wanted to push a little bit further. Also similar to the fact in the senior year program, the people get to people and the relationship building, something that we've had in every curricula in the senior year. But what has changed is more of what are we saying about it and why is it included in general? And it's just this idea that, yes, we've had appeal letters every single year and we always do appeal letters, but what is a little bit more that the students can take away from the appeal letters is the fact that they are building essentially a personal network. It is not just meant to be a list of random names that they and their parents can put together, but it's a little bit more helpful if they understand what does this do in practice for them. Why is this something that they could take away from the program, even beyond the specific skills that are associated with executing the junior or executing the senior year. But in a broader sense, it is you're building a personal network, you're understanding how to, build these relationships, maintain these relationships in this way, whether it's specifically for fundraising or whatever it might be. But a lot of these changes are more about what is general approach and what is the framing for the students of the program. In the junior year, you have Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Again, same thing. We had the giving ladder in the past. The point of that isn't so much to say specifically these words to the students in this order, but it's more of the framing of this discussion that is, what is deemed important in philanthropy? How do you determine what is good or what is bad, or what you should be funding or what you don't want to be funding? These are all really questions that students likely have never thought of in a specific way. And it's going to be really hard for them to understand, should I fund an arts program if we are not funding a, food program, or should I feel fine with that? It's just bringing those thoughts to the forefront of their mind. And this is one framing that we want to do with it. Another thing was the sample letter of decline. More generally speaking, we have a lot of just different samples. I know a few of you have actually done really good jobs of having the students send out a lot of these information and these emails to the local nonprofits, to the organizations, whatever it is. We just want to make sure that we're giving you all the opportunities that you can allow your students to step up and own different aspects of the program, because we think it's just so much more beneficial when the students are owning those aspects of it. And it's more general than the letter of decline. There's a lot of stuff in there that please feel free to look through. Please feel free to personalize, but for the most part, it should be just templates that you can give to the students and say, yeah, here's how you reach out to organizations for setting up, site visits. Here's how you reach out to whatever it might be. We want you to be able to give the ownership as much as possible to the students in a way that doesn't require more work from you. For the senior year, also hypothetical donor profiles. We know some of you have been able to find a lot of success with the approaches that you've had for fundraising in the past. But for anyone that has had any general issues or been a little bit uncertain of what you're actually trying to do, we want to be a little bit clearer with like the direction that you're taking in your fundraising approaches, and who are you specifically trying to aim for, whether it's, looking at the different types of donors, the different people in your community, the approach to who has the means to provide more funds or who has the interest in it. We have all those different commitments in it. It is more just looking at who are we aiming for and being intentional. And it's that intentionality that we are looking to increase and perpetuate for a lot of the aspects of the program. The giving circles, again, it's something that we're going to make and has now been included in all of the senior year curricula. The point of it is more not necessarily specifically to say, well, this is what giving circles are, but to change the end of the year conversation from, congratulations, you've done great work for the last 2 years and you finished it, so now you're going to move on to the next part of your life. Changing that into more of a, here's the end of the year, but this is a springboard into you being a philanthropist for the rest of your lives. And that is really what we want that last discussion to be for the seniors, is more of, now you can take these tools and do whatever you want with it, because you will be a philanthropist for the rest of your life, no matter what that means, whether you're actively fundraising for a nonprofit or whether that just means that you're doing good for the benefit of others on a day-to-day basis. But we want that to be more of a springboard and a launching point for them after they graduate. And then similar to the last thing, the survey evaluation, we just want to put a stronger emphasis on that short and long-term participant outcomes. We know that we had a discussion with a lot of you last year about the general surveying. We do want to kind of place a little bit more of a heavy emphasis on that for this year and see, can we include those surveys maybe in that final session for the seniors? If not, then maybe before that final session, just to make sure that we're getting as much data as we can. And we do have also, I will let you all know now, new results coming for those surveys from our surveying partner. The Lilly School of Philanthropy will be sending us some more information. So you should be all receiving a little more information on the surveying that they've been able to do at this point. But as something else that we wanted to point out and get a little bit more attention for this curriculum. The last section of the updates that have been done are just general additional new reference material. So there's a huge list of things that a lot of them are somewhat departures from what has been included in the past. Here's the ones that I wanted to specify a little bit more specifically. The first two here are the unity building sessions and the youth officer committees. These are not things that are included to make you have to do them in the curriculum. They're not required in any capacity. They're more just meant to be tools and options at your fingertips to have a better connection and utilize and empower your youth in a more appropriate and beneficial way. Take whatever you want from them or don't, but we just want to, for the unity building, that was specifically meant to address things like cross-pollination between the junior and the senior cohorts and increasing these engagement in sessions so that students initially are able to get to know each other a little bit better, and then feel more comfortable talking in sessions, help increase the personalized student impact, and then helping the students better plan their impact. These are all things that you can do in a lot of other ways. And we didn't include this in the curriculum to make it so that you have to do this. It's more of to bring those ideas to the front of your minds and think, how can we increase this cross-pollination between our cohorts? Maybe it's just having the seniors come back and challenge the students that are in this junior class that are moving into the senior class to raise more than them. That's a good way to create cross-pollination, create, some type of cross-understanding between the two cohorts. But just again, all of those ideas are things that you can find in a lot of different ways. Include them in your sessions, include them in your materials, whatever it might be. But just think about different ways to build unity in your sessions. And then for the youth officer committee, same thing. It's just meant to offer more official opportunities for the students that are already going to be stepping up. We've seen a lot of programs have a few students that do ask for more. It's just meant to be there as an opportunity. If you do see a few students that are saying, hey, do you have anything else that I could do? Or I'd love to help with this thing. These are roles that you can provide to those students and say, I will give you the respect and the understanding and also the official role that you can put on your resume and things like that. But also it will help you to alleviate some of the work that you have to do. Things like social media, you can always put that onto a few students. Maybe you have a few students that are really interested in social media and want to do more marketing work like that. It's not something that you have to do. It is not meant to be overwhelming and making you think, how do I include all this stuff into the sessions? It is just more, if you see this as an opportunity, feel free to build it into your approach. Otherwise, not a problem at all. And then for the other section, it's just the guides that we have. The guides are pretty extensive and there's a lot to read. It's just more meant to be reference material for you to go back. If you're stuck with, for example, building your social media pages for the students, these are easy things that are just, here's what to post, when to post it. There's in the social media one, there's a timeline of sample posts that you can be posting and having the students do. You can have it in sessions, you can have them own this. Same thing with the marketing and the different capstone events. They are long and they are not meant to be something that you have to follow to the letter of the law. It is just more meant to be opportunities for you to answer questions that you may have or provide a little bit of additional clarification for this, whether it be with checklists or step-by-step instructions or best practices. They are just meant to be there as resources for you to be able to use. And then the last section of this, again, a lot of it is just templates, resources, examples, so you can kind of focus more of your attention on the important parts of the program that you would like to be doing rather than those back-end time wasting or time using things that the program oftentimes had. So that's most of what we wanted for the new curriculum. Obviously, there's a lot more materials that were new than just those things, but I wanted to explicitly point those out. If anyone has any questions about any of those things that are new or your approaches to them, or if you're thinking, here's another thing that I was thinking maybe we could include, you're always more than welcome to reach out to me and I'd be happy to set up a call and even work with you to plan those processes. But that was more of the why in terms of we're not just changing things to change them, but here's what we're looking for and here's what we're looking to do more in the future. So moving into the second section of today, I just wanted to give all of you a chance to have a better understanding of what the other programs and what the other affiliate programs that we have are, what they look like, what their different characteristics are. And so here's a general listing of all of the current affiliate programs that were running last year. Some of them were able to be running both years last year. Some of them have now just started running it. And we also have a little bit more added onto this this year. We have another affiliate that is also in Glenbard, which is another town in the suburbs of Illinois. The point is, though, these are all resources also for you. You are all more than welcome to reach out to each other. If you don't have the contact information for someone that you're looking for, you can always ask me. Most of you are going to be included on the email chains, but it is meant to be that you can ask each other questions. I know all of you have different levels of engagement with the program. Some of you have been with the program for 5, 6, 7, 10 years. Some of you were brand new. So there are different levels of people going through either exactly what you're going through or what you have gone through or what you were going through that have done in the past. So these are all the programs that we have. I know I have a few of you on the call today. If we want to, we can go ahead in a second and go through just who's on the call and answer a few initial questions. And I think these would be a few initial pretty basic questions that I know a lot of you have had questions about. Obviously, this is stuff that is kind of included or was it kind of included in the materials that you were all given for the end of year summaries. But again, I think this is just a beginning to the conversation. And there's a few different questions that we'll be able to go through and answer just so that you all get a feel for each other And if you all want, we can go ahead and get started just going through who's on the call right now. For those of you that are not on the call right now, we'll just be able to send this to you and you'll be able to join the discussion next time. But initially, Laura, do you want to go ahead and just get us started with the program structure? Just generally speaking, how many students you have, how many mentors, how often you meet, and how much funding you give.
Sure. Um, our first year we started with 14 students. We ended with 12. One was due to absence and the other one moved. And we have 12 students there, and we have 5 mentors in that class. We meet during evenings or Sunday afternoons, Monday evenings, just because their activity schedule is just packed. And if they can't do it on a Monday night, which is our regular night, then we go to a Sunday afternoon. And we meet just once a month. And last year we've had $10,000 to grant out. So we gave out 2 grants, $5,000 apiece. This year, excuse me, we've doubled our numbers. We have 23 students. We have 8 mentors, and we meet always just on Sunday afternoons so far. Sounds like it's going to work. And they will grant the amount they will get is going to depend on what the seniors raise this year.
And then you're
So
from,
we're hoping for 10,000 again, but down the road, hoping that amount increases every year.
yeah, and you're in Hamilton County, right? In Nebraska, just for those of you that
Yes,
may not know.
yes, sorry, youth engaged in philanthropy. Mhm.
Perfect. Janet, do you want to go ahead and take second?
Sure. I'm Janet Somerville. I'm with Naperville Teen Philanthropy Initiative. So we pull from all 6 high schools in Naperville. 5 of them are public, 203, 204, if you're in this area. And then Bennett is a private school we also pull from. This is our second year. So we have 28 seniors and 27 juniors. And we have 5 mentors for each program. So 10 altogether. And I actually have a floater mentor. So filling in for when others can't be there. And hopefully then she can become a mentor next year. We meet on Wednesday nights at the North Central College because our students also get college credit. So they do meet for 3 hours. We meet from 5:30 to 8:30. We feed them dinner during that first part. The TPI, the 3 pillars curriculum, I start really at 6:30. So that first hour is with the textbook and that. One of the things we changed up this year, we're meeting from September and wrapping up at the end of April. And we are not meeting during December because I found meeting in December was crazy with finals and holiday stuff and all of that. And going into May was equally as crazy with the graduations and AP testing and all of those kinds of things. So I actually set the junior schedule and then I met with a focus group of students and they set their senior schedule, squeezing it in between. So we doubled up a few months. So that's something new. We'll see how that goes. I think it will be positive though. How much funding last year was 10,000. This year will be 10,000. And then the following year will be hopefully more because hopefully our seniors will be able to raise more so that we can allocate more. So that is pending, but for sure this year it'll be 10,000. We actually funded 12 organizations last year. So this year, who knows? But I was going to say, Remy, I do like the new rating tool that you all added to the curriculum with the weights on there because we did not weight the rating tool, which I think also made me feel that they were not ready to decide, oh, we're not going to fund certain organizations. So we funded all the asks last year. But I think the rating tool makes it a lot easier for us to put a line if you have to score above a certain point.
Mhm.
So that's our Naperville program.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I think Allie from Fairfield County was on the call, but you also said that you had to jump off. I don't know if you have enough time, but if you wanted to quickly introduce you and your program, if she's still on.
Yes, sure. Sorry, I might have missed the first sentence that you said. I'm just going to my next application right now, but nice to meet you all by phone. Sorry, I'm not on screen. My name is Allie Gannum. So right now we have 10 youth on board. This is our first year of the program in Fairfield County, Connecticut. So our goal is to ultimately, we serve all 23 towns and cities in the county. So our goal is to ultimately eventually have representation from all 23 towns and cities if possible. Right now, we have about youth from 5 different towns and cities, which is pretty cool to see. We have 5 from the Bridgeport area. We have 2 from Fairfield. We have 1 from Sanford, 1 from Norwalk. And I'm always forgetting one, I believe 1 from Darien. I always confuse Darien and Wilson in my head. This year, we're slightly different, I think, and I'm sure I've given Remy a lot of headaches in terms of our age range. We have expanded our age range, so we go beyond 18 years old. So we serve youth 16 through 24. So right now, our youngest youth is 16 and our oldest is 23. And this year we are working on shoring up our dollars so that they can do some larger grant making in the coming year. And they will be engaging in some volunteer opportunities. We just had our first one this past Saturday, and we'll be pairing that with some small grants for the organizations that would be hosting us for those volunteer opportunities to be able to just kind of recoup some of maybe the dollars or expenses that they had associated with just hosting us as a group. I believe I said we had 10 youth on board. We have 2 mentors engaged, and then it's myself and Sarah Montoday, who's our senior program associate at the foundation. If I
And
miss
you will
anything else,
also
let me
meet
just let
every
me
2
know.
weeks, correct?
Yes, we meet bi-weekly on Tuesdays. And this evening, we actually had to cancel our optional office hours, but we host in between sessions an optional office hour for the youth to be able to engage either with us as their program coordinators or mentors or just fellow peers in the space.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I know that the program that we have in Fairfield is slightly different. A few things that you'd mentioned, like the age range and their approach to the grant making this year in tandem with the next year. But they also do meet every 2 weeks. And so they've kind of basically taken the curriculum and split it out into 2 to 3 sessions for every individual module, which is an approach that some have taken in the past. Does make it easier to include more, but they're finding it pretty easy to continue to engage the youth. So this is a program that is a little bit more experimental in their approaches, but is interesting to hear about. But yeah, thank you, Allie. And I know you had to hop off at some point, so thanks for sticking around whenever you can. And then Sarah or Sue, did either of you want to briefly just introduce your programs?
Hi, this is Sarah. I'm with the Greater Grand Island Community Foundation here in Grand Island, Nebraska. I'm going to preface everything I'm about to say by saying that I'm starting my 4th week of work here. And so I don't know everything. I'm actually sitting with the students to experience the program, and then next year I'll have more involvement in it. Right now, we've got 29 students in each cohort. So juniors have 29, seniors have 29, and we have 4 or 5 mentors in each. We meet during school hours, so we meet once a month. They meet on different Thursdays, and we meet in the morning. And the juniors, we've teamed up with a program here that offers kind of a complimentary program. And so the juniors actually take the entire day. They spend the first couple hours with us, and then they go with the other program, which works out really well. And then the seniors just do the couple hours with us in the mornings. We were doing, again, these numbers are ish because I'm still learning, but we were doing 20,000. They've decided to up it to 25,000 because last year's seniors raised over $40,000. So we've got some really motivated, remarkable students. And I'm very excited to get to learn more with them and to help them out.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Grand Island is actually a partner that has been there, an affiliate of ours for a while now. So they've had a lot of different experience and have done a really great job. So now they're doing a lot of fundraising and now a lot more grant making as well. And then Sue, would you like to go?
Sure. I'm Sue Nelson with the Community Foundation of North Central Wisconsin, located right in the heart of Wisconsin in Wausau, Wisconsin. We are actually just starting our third year with the program. So we have last year graduated our first class of seniors. Right now we do run two cohorts. We have a junior cohort that meets on the third Monday of the month from 10 o'clock till 12:30. And we have a senior cohort that meets from 12 o'clock to 2:30. So both run back to back, which works out really well. And as far as our numbers right now, recruitment has probably been one of our biggest um, stumbling blocks is to try to get the number of students that we had hoped to have. We were hoping for 20 to 25. Right now, we have a senior cohort of about 8 to 10, something like that, and a junior cohort, which has not started this year because we're still trying to recruit. I think we're at about a dozen students for that. Like I said, we meet once a month. First the juniors, then the seniors. Right now, because our numbers are a little bit lower, we are getting by with just 2 mentors per cohort, which is working out real well. So yeah, we meet during the school day, which seems to, excuse me, work well for the kids. As far as the funding, we have been able to give away $20,000 each year. The juniors have been giving away. And last year was the first year that the seniors raised money, and they raised about $23,000. So I think we're kind of keeping pace with hoping to keep our granting at around 20,000 per year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, the point of all of this also is to see all of the programs that we have are remarkably different in terms of their size, their approach. They really are, all of you are incredibly different in a lot of different ways. And so I do think that is going to be interesting in a lot of ways. And it's also going to be, I think, really helpful because you've all had different situations that have kind of forced you to take different approaches that might be beneficial for others that maybe didn't think of that as an approach or as a necessity. I know some programs would never have thought to, have their programs run during the day or during the mornings, the weekends, or whatever it is, even small things like that. I do think it's going to be interesting for you all to be able to have a more, a stronger understanding of what the rest of the programs look like. So a couple other things for the program structure that we could be helpful to discuss. So a couple other things like what sorts of interaction do you have between your cohorts? And then how is your role specifically as a program coordinator structured? I know some of our coordinators are structured as employees of the Community Foundation. Others are external. Others are in through the school system itself. Just curious as to if any of you all had questions about that or wanted to share your experience for the others that are on the call as well. And also those will be listening later.
I'd be happy to kick us off for us at the foundation. Remy, so myself and Sarah are both program associates for the foundation already. This is something that was added to our roles probably about, Sarah and I will both be at the foundation 2 years at some point in the coming weeks on October 3rd. So they eventually baked this into kind of our job description that we would have kind of share the program coordinator role. And really, I can't imagine doing it just as like one person. So I really do appreciate having Sarah as like my partner in crime to kind of like bounce off a lot of ideas especially in terms of like the back end, like communicating, how do we share information with the youth. And then we're also, we've engaged with the mentors, but something our foundation does is an honorarium. So we do try to honor when people are giving us their time and their expertise, that we're valuing that time and expertise with dollars. So we've just kind of matched like our internal policy with stipending the mentors as well. They get $2,000 each for the year. And then the youth are stipended too. That's built into our budget. I know you didn't ask about that. But I do think that does help with a lot of the engagement pieces. But even just the one youth that we did have at the volunteer event this past weekend, you know, like I was mentioning, I was like, you know, I just want to make sure you don't go over your hours, like, so you don't like come up short on your stipend at the end of the year. She was like, I don't even care about the money. I'm just like really happy with the experience. So that was just really nice to hear. So I think just kind of that partnership between program coordinators and mentors and having it embedded at the foundation has been really, I think, just vital to us. Like having it really truly embedded from kind of the host organization has been helpful. And I'm not sure if that's similar in other programs or if maybe people have different approaches, but would love to hear more from others.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, our group, or I work at a foundation too. So our group is based is a community foundation, not through the school. I feel the difficult part of that is just having to work with their school schedules, their outside activities, and we're such a small community. In county, we pull from 3 schools, but we're all small schools, and so everybody's involved in everything. So our biggest, problem is just getting it to work for all of them, to meet. And the first year was difficult. The second year, like I said, we moved to a Sunday, which I think is going to work a lot better so far. We've had a meeting and then we've had one session and I've had 100% attendance. So that has been great. But we are looking for down the road and getting it into the school day. So we're, visiting with superintendents at all the schools to see if there's any way we can come in to their school or into, it would be the largest school, which is Aurora. It's the middle, the center location, probably out of the 3 schools, so that we can do it during the school time. So it's easier on the students to get there. And, it's just one less thing they have to try to get to in a day.
Yeah, exactly. And I know a lot of our programs are run through the Community Foundation, but there's a few of them that are not. And I know in Grand Island, for example, that was one that's been part of the foundation for pretty much the entire time. And then same with you, Sue, in Wausau. But then Janet, yours is not through a community foundation. You're actually through a separate organization. If you wanted to mention that real quick.
Sure. So we run ours through, it's called a local nonprofit called Kids Matter. And that kind of came about because the gentleman who heard about the 3 Pillars program approached then the executive director for Kids Matter and said, I think this is a great program that could run underneath your umbrella, so the nonprofit. So then, because we have 2 different school districts in our town, and that way it's not inside of one of those, though I'm very curious to hear about, I think, Sue, you were talking about how you run it during the school day, how they fit that in a student's schedule. I would love to hear more about that, except that we have 6 different schools that we're hitting. So I don't know how that would look, but I love anything that makes it fit better for the students. But yes, I am a retired high school teacher. So then they snagged me in my first year of retirement. So I am not bored by any means. But so it's fun because I do know the people in the districts. I know the superintendents. So that makes a smooth conversation there, and I brought in lots of mentors for our entrepreneurship program, which I was a key player in before. So this was a smooth fit, though different with what I'm doing. And then Kids Matter hired me. So I am on payroll for them for what I do as the program coordinator. I know as you were talking about stipends for mentors and that's very interesting concept too that I wrote down. But right now, our mentors are just volunteering their time to be there, and I'm kind of the only paid person that in that realm.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much. Sue, did you want to respond to that?
Sure. And if I'm correct, the question is, have we had an issue with the schools being able to release the kids during the school day? Is that
Right,
the
right. I'm
question?
curious, how do they come to your session? Like you said, what, 10 to 12 and 12:30 if they're
Mhm.
having classes? Yes.
Yeah, and actually, we did a survey with the students that had applied to be a part of the program, and most of them did say they wanted to have the program be during the school day. So that's why we did it. And honestly, the attendance is excellent. Kelly, who is the coordinator of the program here at the Community Foundation, she just notifies each of the schools that have participants with the dates that the students will be let go, and the kids have had no trouble getting out of school. Occasionally, we do run into it happens to be AP testing day or things like that. And just what you had said, May tended to be an interesting month, and December tended to be an interesting month. But we always had enough students that show up for classes that we've been able to continue with the curriculum. So
Do
during
you
the school
bus
day, it's been
them to
great.
you?
What's
Do you
that?
bus them? Do you bus the students
They
to wherever
actually,
you are? Or
they
they
actually,
drive?
they all drive. They all have to have their own transportation here.
Okay.
And we do have 10 school districts in the county that we solicit for students, but the majority of them are right in the greater Wausau area. So most students don't have much farther than 10 miles to come. Um, well, I guess some could be more like 15 miles. But right now we have students, I think, from 4 or 5 different school districts or schools, not districts, but schools.
And there's their school count it like a field trip, or they just you
And
can
and and
go,
and, an excused absence for,
okay,
half a day. hmm
got it.
The schools are actually really excited to have kids participate.
That's cool.
Yeah, we just want to get our numbers up a little bit. Like I said, I would like to see it around 20 per cohort. Our senior cohort is smaller, but they've got the energy of 25 kids, so we we think it's going to be a good year.
Yeah, perfect. And that is something that is always interesting is to see the differences in like the structures with it. And I know even the structures with role in Grand Island when Sarah, I know that you're kind of coming into the role now and that you're going to be watching and playing a little bit more of a role next year. But I know up to this point for the last League it's year, you've kind of had the role split up a little bit more between Melissa and Elizabeth, and kind of like some of the more of the marketing with Megan, which has been a really interesting approach. And I'm just curious as to, I guess, how much you've worked with them or how much you've come into since your role started.
Yes, so we do have a different setup in that Elizabeth we hire to facilitate the program, and then we, as the foundation staff, do the things like contact the schools and make sure all the paperwork is ready. But she really stands in front and guides the conversations, and that might change. She's doing a great job, and we don't feel need to change it. But if she does decide to leave us, I've been told that will be my position. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so the point of that obviously is that everyone's structure in itself is different, which is obviously going to make the other aspects of the program, the approach, the expectations, the executions, all different. And that's kind of like the second general group of questions that I had was just more of the program approach. Things like how has your program evolved over time? What does the connection with the community look like? And then also how have you tailored your approach to better meet the needs of your community? Obviously, some of that we just discussed with the meeting times and how that works. And I know a lot of the programs right now, Janet and Lori, your programs are a little bit newer. But even in the year or the couple years that you have all been here, have any of you noticed any changes or evolutions or what that looks like for you, or anything that you might expect in the near future that you would like to see changed, in terms of your approach to the program itself? And if you haven't had any evolutions up to this point, that's totally fine too, because I know that you're all relatively new in it. And I think a few things that I had actually heard from when I connected with Elizabeth, Sarah, were interesting approaches that had been changed. Just small things like the way that you work with another organization to do a lot more of the fundraising aspects of the program. And she'd also mentioned that they have an initial day where the students all get to connect a little bit more, and I think it's a Saturday, which is really interesting, and just generally that approach to the inclusion of volunteering or your grant making like that has been an interesting shift. And last time I talked to her, she had mentioned that you don't plan on kind of evolving in any other capacities, but I guess what are your thoughts if you've had any discussions up to this point on what it looks like, or what your community foundation looks like itself like that? And if you don't, that's also totally fine.
I would say I don't really know enough to speak to that. I know
Hmm.
one thing that I have a conversation I have been a part of is kind of figuring out what we could do with alumni that go through the program. And it's tricky because maybe they go off to college, maybe they do this, do that. How do we best communicate with them? But I think something that was mentioned before is this is a really big networking opportunity for the students, both locally and then with each other. And I would love to figure out how to best utilize that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually something that we are in the process of hopefully figuring out on our end for the TPI for, being able to connect. Obviously, it's not as easy to connect people across the country, but just being a part of the same network is going to make it easier for people to be able to see, oh, if I'm going to this location, maybe that there are people that I can connect with or that have had similar experiences going, through high school and the same programs with. So hopefully we will be able to help you with that, Sarah,
Right.
just from a TPI perspective, but then also obviously within each of your programs, you'll have your own alumni networks that are going to be able to be engaged. But we'll work with all of you to figure out what that looks like as well.
Exciting, wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And then do either any of you others have any thoughts on ways that your program has changed, or if not, just what does the connection with your community look like? Have you been able to get into or have any relationships with any of the organizations in your community? I know some of, I believe in Beckley, they were doing a little bit of a different approach with one of the organizations that had reached out to get some volunteering time, and they wound up doing a lot more of their volunteering directly through one organization. So what does that community connection look like for all of you, if you have any at all, or if you think you feel it's primarily connected just through the schools and your foundation itself?
I would say for ours, actually, I know some of our mentors, our senior mentors actually are like either executive directors or program directors, or they are working for nonprofits or foundations or organizations. And same thing with some of our new people, new mentors who have come in. So the organizations who we would also give to, but not necessarily, which have many different components, also are the ones coming alongside to help the students learn, which has been really cool because they're experts. I mean, my goodness, these people can talk. Like we were actually looking at a grant the other day with our seniors, and the mentor who was looking at the grant, she actually was the person who put the whole presentation together for the city of Naperville for when it was created. And as her roles have evolved, but it's been fun to see these people who are connected. And that's kind of though how Naperville is very large. We're a little over 100,000 people, but it very much is like a village, and they're like always there helping each other, networking. I think they have a meeting that they even all these nonprofits and organizations go to, or organizations that are geared towards kids. that they go to, and they partner together. So it has made it fun, and I wouldn't say easy, but kind of those bridges are already there for us to walk across. And so when you're talking about what we can do to help them and what they can do to help us, and it might be their people help mentor and our kids can help give. But then it also, helps the students even learn about that conflict of interest and how do we approach that carefully and ethically and responsibly. But that is one of the pieces. I think the one of our pieces, I don't know if it's evolving, but we want to work on in our program with the focus group I had with my juniors who are now my seniors. They said, we want to have some social activities. And I'm like, hey, people, you can hardly make it to class. Where are you going to fit in social activities? But we had talked about how we wanted more intentional volunteering as well. But it was fun. They said, well, let's make our volunteering as a big group, some social, opportunities. So that's been a fun little thing that we're going to be working on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, and so then the last thing for this one was just more thoughts, incorporating the thoughts and ideas of your youth. I think a lot of our programs do that a little bit differently in terms of, the approach itself, whether that's literally just sending out surveys to see when the students can all meet. But I know a couple of the foundations that are affiliate programs of ours do have more of an intentional relationship with the foundation itself and the impact teams to understand a little more about what the interests and the feelings of the students are so they can kind of affect their direct programs and their approaches within the community foundation themselves. But that is something that is always, I think, important to think about is like, what are you doing to make sure that it is not just a one-way street, that it is just, here's a program that you can be on as a student or be a part of. And if you want to, feel free. If not, then don't worry about it. But, the approach also to include what works for you, what are you interested in, what are the changes that you're interested in making, because we want it to be that students that have really a passion for their community and wanting to see the best for it are always able to, bring up things. So that's always something that is maybe a little bit difficult to fully change the program to change, but generally, like you're mentioning, if they're saying we would love to do these more social things, what does that look like in practice when obviously they have really busy schedules? Maybe there's what are they trying to get out of that aspect? Is it just that they want to get out into the community, or is it they want to connect better? Maybe it's they want to learn more about different aspects of the community. And so I think there's a lot of different parts to these types of questions that we can always ask and see, okay, what is it that the students are asking or saying, or what are their thoughts? But then also maybe there's something a nugget of information that we can take from that question or that interest and apply it to our approach in a plausible way. So I think those are all good things to consider with that. And then the last part of this section for conversation, just in terms of program execution, some questions that I think are always interesting to think about. Things like, what are additional ways that you found to make the program special? I know some of our programs have done things over like the holiday in December or January, just fun sessions where I think a few of them have done like white elephant gift exchanges that are just meant to be fun and interesting, or Wonderland tree events, or even working in the springtime for different types of, Easter, whatever it might be, just different ways to make it special and just interesting. That obviously there's a balance to be found with what are you including from the sessions, what are you including from the modules, but also sometimes there's always, an opportunity for here's a small thing that is just fun for the kids and something that is interesting or unique, whether that's having the mayor come to the final capstone event or giving the students, an engraved pen. I know a couple of the programs have done t-shirts. I think it's always interesting to have different ways to make it special so that students feel like it's not just, okay, I was part of a program that I'll forget about, but really like this is a small community representing a larger community within a larger community, but increasing that in-group relationship is always, I think, an interesting thing to be able to do. Again, engaging with the community in different ways. And then also just different things that have made it easier for you to effectively execute the program. For you, Janet and Lori, combined your names. Have you seen anything in the first year that you were a part of the program that you felt made it easier once you got to the end of the year as opposed to the beginning of the year for you to execute the program?
I feel just getting to know the kids and getting them to talk more and to participate more towards the end of the year. I think once that grant making part of it, where they really had to talk and work together, after that, I just felt like they just responded better. They were more comfortable, especially after the capstone ceremony, and just looking back to see what they did throughout the whole year. Um, I I think it really opened to their eyes, from what they learned, and how it helped the community. And we didn't even really know those responses until we started recruiting for the next class. And we asked the question, like, what made you join, or why were you interested in this program? And about half of them, if not more, had said that somebody from last year's class had talked to them and told them they should do it because that you learn a lot and it's really a great program. And so, there we thought, oh, well, they did learn something, or, and they did enjoy it, because when you're in class, a lot of the times they just stare at you like deer in the headlights. But
Exactly. And that is a thing that pretty much across the board, almost every single affiliate of ours has said is, I think, the most effective way for recruiting to increase is pretty much always word of mouth. There's other versions that do help and supplement it, but it's always some version of whether, you get more involved in the community and more people know about it and they're able to recommend year over year, or we see a lot of things like my brother did this program, or my cousin did this, or my older whoever it was did this program. I've seen a lot of even my neighbor from 6 years ago did this program, and they recommended it to me. They said, when you get to high school, you have to do this program, and now I'm here and I want to do this. And so it's interesting to see how this kind of evolves within a community, especially communities that are tight. But word of mouth and increasing general engagement is always interesting. But like you're saying, Lori, sometimes you don't notice it until it's actively happening, or what is actually happening is interesting to be able to follow up with. But yeah, do you feel like, Janet, there's anything for you that
I was, well,
changed?
kind of a side, I was going to share, but a side note on that, I laughed because I did receive an email. Oh my goodness. I think it was like last year, November or something, but one mom was talking to another mom about the program. And so the mom whose son was going to be a junior, she wanted to make sure his name was, he knew about it. And he was probably the first kid who signed up, because once we opened it. So it was fun to see. An interesting little piece. We had, what did we have? 24. So our seniors, I think 24 girls, 4 guys. My juniors, I have, I think 20 guys and 7 girls. And so it was
Wow.
really interesting to see the flip. And I'm not fully sure why, but many of these boys coming from our private school, I'm like, what made you sign up? And Remy, you can understand this. They're driving from Western Springs, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, Megan told us about it. Megan told us about it. So I told Megan she was my ambassador winner. But one of the things, Lori, you mentioned getting to know them. So one of the things I realized last year, when Nina, our Kids Matter executive director, she had professional headshots done of all of our students. And so once I got that professional headshots, I made myself little cheat sheets with the kids' faces and names. But otherwise, I saw them one night a month for a couple hours, and we're so busy the whole time, it was hard to remember all the names. But so I knew once I had that, I could learn their names and talk to them saying their names. So this year, after I interviewed the students, so after I told them they were in, so it wouldn't sound like it was what they looked like, then I said, would you please send me a picture so I can learn your names? And so then I also had it to give to the mentors. So the mentors receive my little cheat sheet, and it shows them, here's the kids, here's their names. So the minute they came walking in our very first session, I could call them right by their name. And it just, it's a simple thing, but especially as a school teacher, I'm like, I always wanted to learn my students' names the first day. And that was frustrating for me. We tried name tags, but I'm like, when I'm not standing by you, I don't want to like try to stare at you to figure out,
Yeah.
what does your name tag say? So that was a little trick that I would have found exciting and fun because then now, they walk in, can talk to them, calling them by their name. So a little thing that helped just make it seem more like a family too, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I always think that's an important thing is remembering their names, literally just getting to know them. I think it's oftentimes also easier for mentors that are sitting in their group with them before sessions, after sessions, just having general conversations that whether it's, you're working on a project or a paper or something, remembering any detail about them from session to session is going to mean a lot to them, whether it's their name or whether it's, hey, how did you do on that paper or that presentation or whatever it is. It will make a difference because especially for people that are thinking, these people are just talking to me or I'm just here to listen, it has a genuine shift in their approach to the program when it's, oh, these people know me, like who I am as a person and my name, and actually not just me as a student or someone that's in the program. And that does create a different shift. And I think, Janet, to your point, that's a really great approach to it, creating headshots and printing them out and doing little flashcards of it. But whatever version of that anyone finds, I think is always a good idea for just getting to know the students because it does dramatically increase engagement. I promise that is always going to be the case. Also, everyone just loves hearing their name anyway, so it's always a good idea, just no matter what the situation is. But the more that you can say their name, the better it'll be. But yeah, so that's most of what I wanted to cover today.